And then if you want the journey of another who went from he's an Indian, so there's a cultural difference, but he ended up going from India and influencing the US, bringing meditation to the States 100 years ago or something, 80, 90 years ago. The Autobiography of Yogi is a beautiful representation of the journey of man into spirit.
Good. I'm looking for, I've been looking for new areas of research to get into. So that sounds good.
Those are my favorites. I've read them and I've reread them because you have to. You've listened to Eckhart Tolle, I'm sure.
It's funny you say that. I just learned about him like 3 or 4 days ago, and I started watching some videos. So I had never heard of him before, and I'm just starting to come across. And yeah, so I've watched maybe 3 or 4 of his YouTube videos, and so I'm starting to learn about him. Yeah, it's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, so that's a very so here's another a balance for you, another spectrum. So most people around you are going to exist as man. The wanderer can go into a state of pure spirit or near pure spirit. So like when Christ was performing all those miraculous things, right? Or even the disciples who had the ability to heal. And I think in the book of Acts, they talk about how, I think it's John goes and does a resurrection of a man who like falls out of a window or something. But those things that we see to be miraculous from the human perspective are not miraculous from the spiritual perspective. You're basically existing in a bit of an illusion, the Maya, that creates this belief that we're physical beings. Whole nother conversation. But when you move into spirit, which is where Eckhart Tolle is, you'll watch when somebody asks a question, he's sitting on stage, his eyes start to flicker a lot, and he goes into a very quiet, present state. And then he starts to speak because the answers are flowing through him.
Right. I saw this one video where he read a question, and he just sat there for an uncomfortable minute in dead silence. Exactly. And I was like, say something. And then when it came to him, he started speaking. And it was
profound.
Yeah. So he was just waiting until he was inspired to say what he needed to say.
So it's not him saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the things that I know partly because my human mind has engaged them, but mostly because the spiritual self within me has awakened the knowing. And that's what will happen with you as well. And so as you move down this path and you go into greater consciousness, a knowing will start to move through you. Something called you into the NDE space of curiosity. Something called you to speak to different mediums and psychics. Something spoke to you to communicate with me and to engage in this discussion, right? There is an influence outside of the human Chris that's moving you down this path. That same influencing force can start to stream in knowing or wisdom, knowledge. It would allow you literally to be, as Eckhart Tolle, to be in front of a group and just to have access to an unlimited resource of consciousness, of knowledge. That's what you're witnessing. That's when Christ would speak in the parables, and he was always giving all these different stories. And they're like, why is he always telling stories? He's moving in stories because that was the most effective way to communicate with the people there who had no consciousness. But he does say it in the Gospels. He's like, it's not coming from me. I'm only saying what I'm being told to say. He says that humbly, that's what's happening. You'll love the byproduct of this when you step into it and you start to see the completion of it. And you start to, just over 1% of the planet has wandered back from some from university, a lot from their master's program. Okay, so there's 1% of the planet that has potential for true consciousness and spiritual awakening. Only a couple percent of that 1% have actually stepped into it.
Those are small numbers.
Small numbers. small numbers, but it's all that we need actually to shift the planet to a positive vibrational state.